And when I stopped breathing, I remember realizing that that meant I was going to die. And yet, almost at the same time, I felt more alive and the pain was gone. And I remember hearing my last heartbeat. And then there was this buzzing sound. I assume it was my nervous system, and that like faded away and then it was gone. And then there was just this really bright light shining at me. The only way I can describe it, it was like 1,000 suns shining at me. And somehow it wasn't too bright, though. It was really comfortable and even familiar. Like it's almost like I'd forgotten it was there. Then I remember saying goodbye to my husband, and we had a wolf hybrid dog at the time, and saying goodbye to my dog and my family. And it didn't feel like this sad goodbye. Again, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm dying. It felt like I was just stepping on the other side of the veil. And I knew that, even though I hadn't done it yet, I just knew it. And it was like, I'm just going to go step on the other side of this veil where it's more comfortable. And I wasn't breathing, but it feels like, okay, now there's no more pain, right? And I felt just this overwhelming love and gratitude for my family and my friends. And then I was sort of what I call on the other side of the veil. And then from there, I went right into, I guess, what's called a life review. But I remember just experiencing my entire life from childhood all the way until I was about 29, which is when this happened. It was right before my 29th birthday. And I experienced, like growing up, like being a baby and toddler, and everything was blissful. And they were just showing me like the really important parts of my life, right? Not every time I tied my shoe, but all these moments of decision and interaction with other people. And the first part was really blissful and wonderful. And then it's funny because I was still really young, but then I hit kindergarten. And in kindergarten, so I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I was standing outside with a friend of mine outside my parents' house, and I was basically being mean to her on purpose. And I made her cry. And, I think at that age, you're kind of testing boundaries and just learning, you're still learning. But I was mean to her on purpose, and I made her cry. And I remember in my near-death experience, in my life review, I saw myself, like this was my first big review of, okay, let's look at this moment. And I had to live through it again, but I didn't live through it just as me. I lived through it like there was 3 of us. There was me, and I got to experience, and then I was living through it as my friend, as if I was her. It was like I was her, and I'm experiencing me being so mean to her, and even feeling like her getting sad and thinking like, why are you being mean? And at the same time, I was experiencing it through the eyes of like the divine creator or God, however you want to express that. And there's no judgment from the divine creator, but I was mortified. I mean, I felt, what am I doing? What have I done? And I understood from all angles. So there wasn't like any judgment from the divine, but I definitely learned, what not to do. And then that just continued through my life, different moments where I had, the way I think of it now, the way I was more in alignment with my soul and acting from that. And then moments where I was more aligned with maybe ego and not being so nice. And I got to see every moment that I helped somebody, every moment that I was too in my ego. And so I went through all of that. So after my life review, I went into sort of this expansiveness, and I felt these 4 souls around me. And I felt so much love and bliss and joy and just unconditional love. And I remember feeling like there was so much coming at me that I just had this feeling or thought that, wow, if I were in my human body, I would be exploding, like it's too much. And it was just such love and beauty, and the human word unconditional love like isn't enough to express what this was, but it was just blissful and wonderful. And I remember them sort of, what I experienced was like a download, like they were giving me some information. And what it felt like at the time was this very kind of sacred, quiet moment we were having together. And I felt like it was something that I would need later, but I wouldn't open it right away. And so I, remember experiencing that and experiencing sort of a shedding of the part of me that gets too attached to things. And then I was just in this expansive bliss. And I remember just, it's funny because there's no time, right? You're experiencing infinity, there's no space, but it felt still like I was standing and like looking out at the universe. And I remember feeling like I'm home, like this is me. And I was never Mariko. I was never a rock climber. I was never into alternative medicine. Like all of the things that I thought I was, or my favorite things, like it just fell off. It just, it was like it was gone. All the human beliefs and the human qualities that I believed myself to be just shed in that moment. And I got to be me, and I was free, and I never felt more alive and happy. And then I remember hearing a voice saying, it's not your time. You have to go back. So then I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I remember feeling this force, like they're pushing me from behind really fast. And then I was in my body, I took a breath, and there was just raking sharp pain. It was terrible.